Well, welcome. It's Elite Business Live 2025. It's Ollie Barrett here, co-hosting with Hannah Previtt for 2 packed days, and our subject is technology. We're joined by some fantastic guests, and we're sort of hot off the heels of a very stimulating keynote by Andrew Grill, who rejoins us. Good to see you, Andrew. Thank you. I thought it'd be nice if this session was really driven by our audience in the studio here in St. Paul's and online's questions. So let me tell you who's on stage. Next to Andrew is Alison Wright. Good to see you, Alison. Microsoft mentioned several times already, but you're the SMB or SME director, so the small and medium-sized business. And let's just remind ourselves, that's over 99.9% of companies in the UK. So really leading the strategy and customer engagement for that very sizable group indeed. Confession, my Saturday night dinner, we had 5 guests. Our 6th guest was co-pilot.
Amazing.
Who joined us several times, normally to resolve some sort of argument or disagreement, but we're very grateful for that, so thank you. Next to you is Cassie. Cassie Gasson is the co-chief exec of Thrive, which is all about learning. So really a learning management system, so EdTech in a way, but working with over 350 companies. I thought this was astonishingly good. Sky, Huel, Nando's, Volvo, I mean, world-class companies. So Cassie, you're leading that business. And Eric Schwartz is the Chief AI Officer, a role that might not have existed a few years ago at Tricon Infotech. Word reaches me, he's in the business of starting his new business, and that'll be an agency building agents right up your street. Give them all a round of applause. Welcome, team. By the way, anyone doing a deep fake of me, if I could have a little bit more hair and smaller eyebrows. Thank you, that's just a personal request, thank you. Now, can we start with some practical positives? Because I want to get our audience thinking about AI really driving efficiencies. So let's run down, maybe an opening 20 or 30 seconds just to get us thinking. Eric.
All right, I've got 3 for you, Ollie. So first and foremost, let's start talking about personal productivity. It's a great place to bring AI into your business, but the 3 things I want to show is AI is now allowing people to write content 37% faster. Software developers are doubling their speed, 55% more efficient in writing code, and innovation's happening at 10x. So these are massive improvements just by incorporating tools into your personal productivity.
Like that, and you really did stick to time there. That's very impressive. Okay, Cassie, I'm coming to you, but hands up. Who's currently using AI to enhance, supercharge their writing? Hands up in the studio. Okay, I'd say more than half, wouldn't you say? Okay, all right. Cassie, help us think.
Yeah, I mean, on that topic with content creation for us, we actually have helped some of our customers save up to 60% of their time creating training materials. So actually that speed to content creation has really helped some of our customers. And there's also things like smart admin, so automating repetitive tasks, things like creating personalized journeys so that our users have really super hyper relevant personalized experiences when they're using our technology.
Now, I'm worrying now that I've undersold Thrive. Just set it up properly for us. How do you describe it to a friend in a coffee shop? Just remind us.
Yeah, so Thrive is essentially an enterprise learning and comms tool. So everyone in the room that has a job needs to do a job and needs training or needs to understand how they do it. And as businesses, we also need to communicate with employees. So we work with hundreds and hundreds of organizations supplying their learning and comms technology to businesses. You mentioned like Frasers, Next, Vodafone. So they use our technology to, I suppose, communicate and train their staff.
And on that point, though, on the efficiency of AI, for a retailer, what's a real example of something you would be doing? I just want this to be crystal clear so we sort of hit that home run.
Yeah, I think one of the main things for, especially in the world of retail, if you think they're a deskless workforce, they're on their feet, it's access to instant information. So for us, it's instant answers. We've got a suite of new AI functionality coming out this spring, and a big part of that is developing our own AI assistant, which we're naming Kiki. And it's Kiki enabling our end users, so essentially the employees within these businesses, within retail teams, to get instant answers to their questions. So those questions could be anything. How do I open the shop in the morning? How do I onboard a new starter? Anything like that.
So, Ali, we're deliberately getting a range here, but of course you get to see, the whole sort of ecosystem, if you like. What do we add to that list in terms of how companies are actually harnessing it at the moment?
Sure. So I would say, first of all, that SMBs to small and growing businesses are actually really agile in terms of AI adoption. And we're seeing the adoption really scale massively with the large amount of SMBs that we have here in the UK. So just some examples. So we've got Juice, who are a mobile charging customer. They operate across 4 continents. They have over 13 different languages within their business and many, many time zones. And so actually they are managing meetings, streamlining those. They're saving money on transcription services, getting to the kind of the nub of what they need to do, staying on track in their meetings, being much more productive. We've got Flow, a financial institution platform here in London. So they're highly regulated, reams of data, investment information. They are using it to kind of go through that data and understand it and get some actionable insights from it.
Didn't know, I'm a personal investor in Flow, didn't know that. So thank you for
they are absolutely using Copilot.
Andrew, I get the sense of sort of the low-hanging fruit, but then there's the obvious, maybe not obvious, forgive me, stuff that you're thinking, I just don't know why more businesses aren't using AI for this. What sits in that second bucket?
The resistance, I think, is that people aren't comfortable playing with the tool. They're not sure what it'll do. I've heard time and time again over the last 3 or 4 weeks, people think it's cheating by using AI. It's not cheating. I mean, we use word processors to improve our spelling and grammar and those sort of things, so we should use that. I think that also they are concerned about access to their own data. Is their data ready for AI, and where is it, as I said before? Yes. So think about, if you can do that stuff with things like Copilot and ChatGPT on public data, imagine how powerful it is inside your organisation.
Can I just challenge you, though, briefly, Andrew, which is, you made the point about, don't ask silly questions. Yet some would argue that the essence to experimentation is to ask silly questions, to play, to experiment. So how do you not contradict yourself?
I have contradicted myself. I agree with you.
And?
I actually do ask silly questions because I try to iterate. In fact, I'm probably one of the heaviest users of AI because I turn on the deep research button, which actually takes a lot longer. And it's like basically employing 30 PhDs in the next room to find the answer. So I'm actually a huge user, but I'm using it responsibly.
Turn on the deep research.
It's a deep research button, and when you do that, it goes into PhD mode, and it blows my mind.
Who knows about this button?
Yep.
What?
Turn on deep research. Yep.
Doctors, you lot, right? Okay, all right. Can we? I'm seeding it out there. What are our questions? And I can see lots coming in already, including from a florist. Right. Speaking of letting 1,000 flowers bloom, Cassie, can we swing the spotlight onto you? Is that all right? Let's dive a bit deeper into Thrive and how you've done this in practice. And Eric, I want a bit of your commentary on this as a chief AI officer. But tell us what it's been like.
Yeah, we've been on a huge AI journey, and ours is essentially twofold. So it is developing more within our products. So some of the stuff I was talking about earlier with instant answers, with personalized learning, with quicker content creation. But it's also improving efficiencies within our own business. And there's so many examples that I could give which are practical. But one of my favorites was actually something that our CPO did on his commute on the train home. So he actually decided, we had a big AI sort of managers play day, and everyone's inspiring each other. I think there's something to be said around culture and how we motivate each other to be more curious. So on his way home that evening, he thought, right, I need to do something. He started investigating new tools, came up with a tool called Runbear. Anyone that's heard of Runbear? Now, investigate Runbear. Runbear has created up to 3 Slack assistants for us now, one on people and policies, one on products, knowledge and information, and one also on data. So he spun up in his journey home. It took about 3 to 4 hours. These three assistants that we plugged into Slack, and it's trained on all of our internal knowledge and material. That took him 3 hours on his way home. And it was a really practical example of how, curiosity can create something really interesting. And it was that activity that sort of sparks, right, how do we start to do this deliver it within our products? How do we start to do the same for the customers that we serve as well?
Yeah, love that example. Okay. And then on that though, I mean, you are a world-class communicator. What I'm wondering for lots of guests is how much of this do you choose to understand, if I can put it like that, and to what extent are you surrounding yourself with the... I'm just trying to get a sense, because it can seem, I hope guests will agree, it can seem quite overwhelming.
Yeah, of course, and it is quite overwhelming, right? I don't label myself an AI expert, but a lot of it is interesting, especially when you apply it to our practical everyday. How can we do things faster? How can we be more efficient? When we're curious in terms of how is this going to help make my job, my life easier? That's the sort of thing where it starts to spark that sort of curiosity. And actually, some of these tools are really accessible. Like that, we talk about the actual cost of AI. The entry level of that for up to 5 assistants is about $80 a month, right? So as a scale-up or even a start-up with your own sort of business, being able to understand actually how might you plug something like that into your website, for example, could be something that's really game-changing and set you apart as a business owner.
And just briefly, Eric, if someone is cultivating this relationship either full-time or a share of their time with the chief AI officer, how does that relationship with the CEO thrive? What's the essence to that?
It's a very strategic role right now, and we had this conversation as we were getting ready in the green room that this role, as you introduced me, didn't exist a year ago, and I'm fully cognizant that in 10 months from now, this role may not exist either, but it's a great opportunity for organizations to create a focal point inside their organization as they figure out how to adopt AI and take their organizations on their AI journey, right? So how do we have someone that can just focus 24/7 or at least 8 hours a day on what is AI, what are the latest tools, where does this fit, and how do we get our organization ready to embrace it? One of the biggest things that we see when we talk to customers, the biggest barrier for entry is AI literacy. There are a number of us that sit here and speak about AI day in and day out, and we know it fluently, but if you go and poll the audience, there's still a large number of people that still can't even spell ChatGPT. Now, I'm being a bit facetious, but you know what I mean. They haven't used it yet. And so as organizations, we have to show our teams what these tools are and how they can do them and where they fit.
And we're very grateful, for example, to you all, but to Andrew for helping us navigate some of what's out there. So let's say, Andrew, one of our guests carves out some time to really think about this properly. Back to the curiosity point. What are the fundamental questions you think they should be asking themselves? Because we want this to have a return on investment, but at the same time, it is about seizing opportunity, isn't it? So what's the question?
So I go back to what John Rosie from Dell said, what makes you special? What problem are you trying to solve? And can AI solve that? And maybe the answer is not. But, if you're still playing with AI tools, ask it questions you know answers to. Ask it about your business, about your competition. Ask it about where you might grow. If you turn on the deep research button, it'll actually write you a research paper about opening new markets because it goes and does all the research you don't have time to do. But think about that problem that, I wish we could actually do more X, and ask AI that and keep asking until it says no.
So just linking those two thoughts about asking questions, but also the who within the business, Alison, how does this tend to play out in practice? Because very often these are micro businesses, perhaps, so very small indeed. But how does the theory connect with the practice?
Yeah, so our research shows that 79% of businesses understand that they need to take advantage of AI to be competitive in the market, but 61% of them don't have a plan or vision. So first of all, don't feel alone if you don't have a plan yet, but the time is now. And I would say, as Andrew alluded to, I think it's around asking yourself the questions, and there's probably 4 questions I would recommend any organisation really ask themselves about AI or any technology transformation. And that is, first of all, how is it going to increase or engage my employees better? So if I could take away some of that busy work, what could I get them to do? What higher level creativity could I get them to work on? How do I re-engage customers to really drive lifetime value and cost of that acquisition down as well, and engaging them in a different way? Thirdly, business processes. We all have processes within our business that are inefficient, that are repetitive. How can I start to really re-engineer those? And AI will actually give you some ideas and some looks around your business processes and see where there are opportunities to make those better. And then finally, where can you have IP that you could monetize? We all have uniqueness within our businesses. We've talked a lot about that this morning. Where is there IP that you could start to build on? And you don't have to be a technologist, right? There are partners out there that can help you do this.
Yes.
And I think that's really fundamental to say, go find a partner that is very capable, understands your business size, your industry, and can help guide you and be alongside you.
Surrounding yourself. I mean, and stand by if you're... I mean, the only thing I'm struggling with, and there's fingers on buzzers at this one, so I absolutely get that idea of taking away the monotony.
Yeah.
And the mundane tasks. But isn't there a secret truth in this, which is it is through the mundane task that we get to truly understand the roots of a business? You know, it's all because, in other words, if we devolve that grassroots attachment, do we not become disconnected with what made our businesses successful in the first place, Andrew? Or Eric?
So it's a really interesting dichotomy, right? If we think about the day, right, and we think about how do we use our time in our organizations, is it better spent cutting and pasting requests out of an email into a spreadsheet for 2 days a week to see how your business runs, or take that same person and say, maybe there's a better way we can create some operating cash for our business. Which is a better investment for the organization.
Well,
I'll put that as a question.
Right,
back
no,
to
but it
you.
is a question. It is a question, isn't it? And I would say back to you that there are many leaders that we've all met who have said it was only through learning the ropes that they got to stand on the captain's deck. And Cassie, I don't know to what extent that's been through your mind as people come up through the company, learning the ropes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's super important to learn the ropes and get into the weeds, thrive. A big part of our success is that everyone, including our management teams, understands the detail, gets into the detail. But I'll give you a really good example of actually where it's time well spent. One of our pre-sales team, again, out of curiosity and out of a need, out of a challenge of actually, we needed one of his supports to jump on a project with a customer. So he had to complete RFPs. RFPs is something that we need to do for new business. So it can be hundreds and hundreds of questions that we need to fill out about features and functionality, right? These RFPs might take him on average, maybe 10 hours, let's say. We did a time test. We created our own GPT that we've actually now run as a script that we can put through portals as well, so not just into documents and spreadsheets. And now, on his own, they take an average of 1 hour and 1 minute. So when we fully did a time test, we had the iPhone out, we measured it, and he was doing a time to trial. So he saved 5 to 10 hours per customer. Yeah. And that's still him learning the ropes and understanding the job, right? But it's efficiency.
So that is a really nice resolution on that. So it is freeing up time for the more important things, right? Questions, let's come out to our studio. But here's a question, Ali, here we are. I'm a florist and I own a small flower shop on a high street. I've never thought about using AI before. How can it help grow? See what they've done there. My business, back to STEM subjects, aren't we? Go on.
Yeah. So asking yourself those questions that we've been talking about this morning to identify where you can start. Clearly, I would think about what are the things that you do that would help attract new customers, and how can AI support doing that? What are the things you do, whether it's creating presentations, whether it's, going out, meeting new clients? How can AI support all of that by giving you more time back, by, automating some of your, if you've got a small CRM system or any kind of Excel where you keep your customer base, really think about, well, how are you mining that information to understand your clients and upsell them, continue to engage them using a lot of the social media that we've been talking about this morning. Exactly, the deeper intel. Yeah, understanding your clients at one level deeper.
Well, I sort of want to get more of these in, unless, Cassie, go on.
I was just going to say, sales and marketing, right? Marketing. You've probably got Canva. Is the florist in the room? You've probably got Canva. Things like creating Instagram posts, all of that, it will speed everything up. And also it will make everything look really beautiful and on brand as well.
Fab, agreed. Let's take a question from the studio. I can see a couple down here, but I've sort of neglected going back further. Let's see, any more hands in the air? Why don't we go here, and then we'll go back across and I'll come to the front. There we go, just almost to the back on the right-hand side. Thank you. Feel free to say who you are, you don't have to.
Hi, my question is more around responsible AI. Please ignore my ignorance around it, but specifically around data protection. Lots of businesses will have information that obviously they're worried that the customers can't really share. So how would you address that issue?
One thing I didn't talk about, and this is the other public service announcement, never upload confidential information to a public AI tool. They all have privacy tools. I know, for example, in ChatGPT, in the data control section, it says should we use this for training? But assume that if you upload something, it's going to go in there. I had a client the other week, he said they asked to say, what do you know about our business? And things that you would only know as an insider were in there. So what you can do is actually use tools inside the organisation. So use a GPT that's enterprise ready, and I know Microsoft help with that as well. So use it inside the firewall. Then you've got GDPR's compliant, all the data things. So think about that. Never upload something that's public to a public API.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Okay, good tip. I want to move. Ali, come on.
Yeah, no, completely agree with that. I see too many small businesses upload that and do that thing. So exactly to Andrew's point, you know, things like Microsoft 365, absolutely Copilot. It locks it into your domain, so it's completely enterprise grade ready. It looks across everything that you do within your organization, and it pulls information from the web. It will not take it outside. It will not train the model. So really think about the providers that you're working with as well. There are a lot of free and other tools out there. I would recommend you do your research and pick one that has the privacy, the data, and the security, and make sure that you get your data in a good posture right first before you start with AI as well. So things like data labeling, there are products, we have them at Microsoft, that will do that automatically for you. It will classify your data, it will protect your data. So just be really super secure.
That data labeling. Right, on that very far side here, thank you. We're going to get pushed for time. Sorry, Latifah, I'm making you run around here. Yeah, right on this far side, hand in the air. There you go. Hey, Eric, pick that one off. Look. I'm a bit skeptical of all this AI. What are some simple ways I can start? And Ali, I was going to give that to you, but I'm going to share it with Eric.
Yeah, no, I think Andrew made a really great point in his keynote ahead of time. Always be curious. Find a tool that you like, find a tool that you know, and use it every day.
Yeah, it's those habits.
It's just creating those habits and go, ChatGPT, one of the greatest things about ChatGPT is if you download it on your phone, you have the voice mode.
Yes.
So many people are using it now that instead of listening to a podcast on the way into work, have a conversation with ChatGPT. Yeah. Talk to it and get it to explain your problems to it.
Yeah, totally.
You'll be blown away.
A thinking partner. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. Really interesting talk. I'm a business coach. I work with lots of SMEs and a couple of C-suite boards. So it's really interesting that, Cassie, you're talking about rolling it out to the staff and getting them to learn. But from that upper level, how are you thinking about governance and ethics? Yep. From, they've got to use it ethically. It can be really abused. You were saying that earlier. So how are you bringing it in from a board level down on that level around the ethics and governance and implementing it from that point of view?
Yeah, I think we're a scale-up company. We've got 200 employees, and a big, I suppose, the values and the principles that we want to encourage is a lot around curiosity, experimentation. So there's a lot of governance that needs to be done when we bring these tools in, and also to understand when we're talking about ethics, we need to understand and be wary of the biases. And that's when things like training and upskilling come into play, right? And that's when we've got tools like Thrive to be able to deliver that training and make sure that our organisation is aware of what that looks like. A big part of that is also looking at the tools that we're using and understanding, where are those data sources? Are they trusted data sources that they're supplying us? What's the confidence score of that answer, right? Mm-hmm. Things like that are also really important. And it's only through knowledge acquisition and upskilling and training that we know those things are available and we can be aware of them.
Helpful, thank you, Andrew.
I was recently in front of a group of senior leaders, and the challenge is they aren't curious enough. They're not having those aha moments, so they can't even think about governance because they don't even know what these tools can do. So I often get brought in to shake things up, to give the same talk that I've given you today, and then they have an aha moment. Then they go, we need to worry about governance here. We need to have someone looking across that and looking at the cost controls. Yes. So that is where you need the focus sometimes.
Let's drop down to our very patient guest just in this front row, and there were other questions in this section here. Thank you. And we are going to get beaten by the clock, but we've got more questions backstage. Welcome.
Thank you. I'll make an observation and then a question, if I may.
Go
on. Because I'm Andy Newman, I'm a licensing consultant, an expert. I asked ChatGPT-4 who I should be seeing this weekend, and they said Joseph Valente, who's plumber or something, from The Apprentice, but they didn't mention you or this panel here, which is quite amazing. perhaps 4 was the wrong research tool. But my real question is, I noticed Andrew used Perplexity Pro.
Yes.
I used Perplexity a little bit, but the Pro, what put me off is, or makes me cautious, is that there's China are behind it, and I understand also the checks and balances on AI that spies on us. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, makes it more damaging. Can you advise on how best to protect oneself?
Well, I don't think Perplexity is actually a China link. They actually can use models on their own server. I don't know about that. But again, to a point before, know who your providers are. What is their backstory? Where's the data kept? What are the models that you're using? Just be aware of it.
Right. Oh, good. Very good question. I know we're going to run out of time, but I just wonder, just a brief thought from you all on, and Andrew, I know technically is our futurist, but Alison, let's start with you on where this is going, the trends that you think we're going to start to see. We'll all meet back here in a year's time, but where do you think it's going?
So AI is definitely becoming a new dimension of the way that we work. What we're seeing now is AI is being used as a personal assistant, so doing the things we've always done, but quicker, faster. Where we're getting to is AI as a new team member, and I think Andrew referenced that in his talk around, how can you augment the skills that you've got or give you new skills that maybe as a small business you couldn't afford?
Enter the agents, right, Eric? This is exactly it. Right, on this. Exactly. Carry on and then down through Cassie.
And then exactly that, agents, sorry. Every business process in the future we see will have an agent.
Now, forgive me, Eric, I'm going to ask for your 20-second version, followed by Cassie.
So if anyone's been following me on LinkedIn, I've been talking about 2025 is the year of the agent. So that's big. The other big thing that's coming down the pike for larger organizations is enterprise AI, a trusted source inside of our organization where I can ask that HR question, I can ask that policy question, I can find that expert inside my organization. That's all finally coming. And finally, there'll be model specialization. And we get into a little bit with Andrew's talk, where we can use ChatGPT is better for conversations, or Claude by Anthropic is maybe better for coding. And there'll be different elements for different
courses.
Yeah.
Right.
Courses for courses.
Cassie, a brief final thought.
I'm not going to repeat and say agents. I'm going to go more personality, more customization. I'm going to go more personas coming out of AI.
Oh, I love that thought. Andrew, what have we missed? A provocation to finish our conversation.
Well, if you want to see what agents look like, watch the 2013 movie Her, Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson. That's what agents are moving towards. It's a great watch.
And watch what happens when a very well-known AI company tried to use Scarlett's voice.
Exactly.
A very interesting scenario of the past coming to haunt us. Well, if you thought that was very interesting, and I hope you'll agree with me, it was, then speak to my agent, and we'll have more next year. But on a serious note, Eric, Cassie, Ali, and of course, Andrew, thank you very much indeed. Right, thank you. Now, they haven't got off that lightly because they get to go backstage now to be, Grill gets grilled for a start, but they're going back to meet Hannah Previtt backstage. So I've got just a couple of thoughts for us here in the main studio. Namely, firstly, our next keynote is going to be from someone you will probably recognize from your TV screens. Dr. Alka Patel is a very regular TV doctor on This Morning and many other things, particularly getting us to think about our own health and our years in our life as well, and some of the habits that we could be developing. So we're going to then go into a conversation about culture, but also about diversity, particularly on neurodiversity. We'll pull on those threads in our group conversation. Quick reminder, and I'm going to ask you to stay where you are, please chat to your neighbour and so on, but just a quick reminder, if you're tuning in online, you can sign up to our next interactive breakout session, and that's through the What's On tab, and that next session is going to be called TikTok Means Business, and we thank Jake Gibbons for delivering that, also with colleague Niall Durkin, the account manager at TikTok. So that's going to be kicking off at 12:05. So good luck with that. If you're here in St. Paul's, thank you for staying with us. Please take a few minutes just to stay in the studio, but chat to your neighbour, and our next guest speaker, Dr. Alka Patel, will be with us very shortly. Thank you very much.
So I'm now backstage with a couple of our speakers, going to dig a bit more into some of the topics that have already been discussed today. So Alison, welcome.
Thank you.
I thought it might be fun to kick off with a bit of an anecdote about how Copilot has been used when we're thinking specifically about the AI. And I believe that you have a great lasagna anecdote. So go ahead.
Yeah, so AI more broadly, we've got a customer, Mondra. They have been working with us. They're on our AI for Good program here at Microsoft. And essentially what they have done is really understand the supply chain for different products that we use and consume every day. And they have managed through a chatbot that they've created to reduce the carbon footprint of a lasagna by 18%.
Gosh, that's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So
And
imagine all those lasagnas that we're eating at home, you know, every week.
My kids love lasagna. And just talk to us a bit about AI for Good, because that sounds like something that we should all know about.
Yeah, no, definitely. So Microsoft, as we talked about on stage, is making huge investments into sustainability. We believe that all technologies should be trusted, inclusive, and sustainable. So we have made a promise to be carbon negative by 2030. And part of that investment is our Climate Innovation Fund. So we've invested $1 billion behind climate innovators. We've allocated $760 million of that so far into organisations that are really innovating to bring down carbon footprint, do things like carbon removal technologies, etc. And one of them, the investments, is our AI for Good program. So really working with startups, scale-ups that are thinking about solving some of our biggest climate challenges through the use of technology. So Mondra was one of those, and we have many more here in the UK because we have such a vibrant community in the UK. So really great program.
Amazing, really good to hear. And so thinking now about small businesses, which is obviously your world and mine, in fact, if you had to give one piece of advice, and this was something that came through actually on the text, and one of the questions Ollie didn't have time to get to. So if you could give one piece of advice to a small business owner hesitant about AI, because there has been some negative press in newspapers like ours, what would that be?
I would go and do some learning first. We talked, and Andrew talked a lot about being digitally curious. That growth mindset is huge when we come to think about new technologies. We have just launched some free AI training for small businesses owners. So there's a partner called Founders with a Z. They are doing some free AI training for us that is being bespoke for small businesses. So you'll see the likes of myself and some of my colleagues here today talking and helping small businesses really understand what is AI, how do they start to experiment. And then I would say go and really research the tools that you want to use. If you're really a little bit worried, go find a great partner that can help you, that have the skills, that can support you, your business, understand you, and will take the time to understand you and will help you on that AI journey securely and safely.
That's amazing. A really great practical note to end on. Alison, thank you so much.
Lovely
Really
to
great to meet you.
Thank
Thank you so much. If you could pop off this way and we'll just grab a few moments with Cassie. Thank you, Alison. Hi, Cassie. Yes, it's live. Come and join us here. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you?
You're fantastic on the stage, as always. So, Thrive, 200 people business, one of the UK's fastest growing tech startups, as recognised by the Sunday Times.
Yeah.
And you were promoted to be co-CEO. Was that last year?
Yes, yeah. Last year, summer.
And so what's that like? What's that like, leading an organisation of that size? Do you mind me asking how old you are?
I'm 31, just turned 31.
So that's an extraordinary amount of responsibility, dare I remind you, for anybody, let alone somebody of your age. What's it like at the helm?
It's great. I've got an amazing team. Our exec team, our leadership team, our management team, our whole team is brilliant and have been super supportive. I've been there since day one, so my journey has been quite interesting. Our co-CEO, my co-CEO, Sean, who's our founder, he actually hired me out of university and it was my first ever graduate job. So I've worked with him now for over 10 years.
Wow.
My background's all marketing, so I've been CMO at Thrive for the last 4 years. And a big part of my promotion was essentially understanding, how can we take all of the success that we've had within our first 4 years? I mean, we've grown hugely to, over 12 million in ARR now, working with companies like Next, Vodafone, who I know is one of the sponsors as well today, Fraser's Group, organisations that are enterprise with thousands and thousands of employees. And a big part of my role was essentially how do we keep what's really special about Thrive, our people, our culture, understanding us as a brand
as we scale and as we grow and as we go into this next crazy journey.
Well, and as you mentioned, you're growing at scale, 200 people, growing. I'm sure you're adding people all the time. It must be difficult to even keep up with that. Do you have any great tips for managing a scaling team? And particularly, I'm assuming you employ lots of younger people and they get a bit of a hard rap. So what's that like? And what are your top tips for managing Gen Z?
Yeah, good question. I suppose top tips is culture is everything. Culture is not just a set of values written down on a piece of paper. For us, it's about creating the right environment, the right opportunities, and the right energy for people just to, well, pun, but thrive, right? Like, it's about creating that environment where people can be their best selves and giving them the opportunities to take a step up. I think one of the things that's really special about Thrive is we invest in potential, not necessarily just experience. And that's a huge learning for us over the last 5 years. Is what's successful at Thrive is people that graft, that get into the detail. And a lot of that is younger people as well, coming out of university, who are curious, who want to learn, who want to get into what we were talking about on stage, getting into the weeds of things. So yeah, a really big part of that is nailing our culture and nailing a really great environment for our people to learn from others as well.
And you're kind of a living embodiment of that, aren't you? Kind of giving opportunities to thrive, because look at the journey you've been on with the business. Am I right in thinking you're based in Nottinghamshire?
Yes, our head office is based in Nottinghamshire, and we've also got an office in Brighton as well. So that's where actually I'm based.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because when I first started covering tech, it feels like many moons ago, like 15 or so years ago, it was all about being in London. And if you weren't in London, everyone was like, why aren't you in London? That's where it's all going on. And typically that's where the venture capitalists still, you know, are based in London and the southeast. So what's it like being based in Nottinghamshire and Brighton?
We've got a beautiful office in the countryside. You should come visit. We basically take over a village called Bingham with people in Thrive t-shirts walking all around it all the time. And what's it like being there? I mean, the world's remote now, right? Like, in what world is people going into the office in London 5 days a week? But people want more flexibility. And actually for us, it gives us a really nice opportunity to get to different places as well. From Brighton, you can get the train. I got the train up today and it took me, 50 minutes. Everywhere's accessible. And we're flying all over the place, visiting customers all the time anyway. So we're on the road a lot of the time.
Okay, fair enough. And one quick thing, if I may.
Yes, of course.
I'm always interested in this because one of the challenges I face as a journalist, I want to speak to women about what it's like being a woman in tech.
Yeah.
Fundraising is something we're going to be talking about later. And it's a real kind of area of passion for me. Why is there such little investment going into female-founded and led businesses in the UK? And how do we move the dial? Because it doesn't seem to have happened for some time. How do you consider yourself a woman in tech? Because other women I know actually don't. They're like, I'm a great leader and my gender is irrelevant. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's important that we support women in tech. I think I'm not one that likes labels or names or anything. We've created our own community internally. Our CLO, Helen, who's a brilliant learning advocate and leader, has created our own Women In community. We've got 800 people in the HR, learning, recruitment tech space who now chat about stuff on WhatsApp, right? Like, I want to do a job share, but I'm looking for someone to do this with me, and like linking people up, and also just talking about some of the challenges we have to face as women, which is so different to men. I think one of the things that I bring is, I feel like I bring to our exec team especially, is that different perspective, right? People with different diversities bring different outlooks. It's just a fact. So yes, I would consider myself a woman in tech. I would consider myself a woman in marketing, HR tech, whatever that looks like. And I'm proud of that. I think let's do it for the girls.
Oh my God, love that. What an empowering note to end on. Cassie, thank you very much. I'll see you later on. Thank you, Cassie.
Thank you.
And I'll be taking you up on that offer to come and check out the head office. Thank you very much, Cassie. And that's all we have time for backstage here for the time being.